Welcome to the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast, episode number 69. We're getting there. My name is Tony B. Alongside me, as usual, is David B. And Timmy D's back in the studio. Drove by his house the other day. Somebody's building a mini Sears Tower in the neighborhood.
That's not creepy.
Today's topic, Trucker. What's his name?
Trucker Todd.
Trucker Todd, right? Thought you guys were going to forget that. Remember, we're just three Americans discussing the topics that affect the transportation industry. Our views, the views of us three, are purely news-driven and do not express the views of any transportation provider or any business entity that uses a transportation provider. Timmy D, why in the heck do we do it?
For the transportainment.
Boom. That's right, transportainment. You can catch us on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and our home website, ShipsGonnaHappen.com. Just Google us in the search engine and you'll find us in that search engine. David B., happy Saturday morning.
Good Saturday morning to the two of you. It's a beautiful Saturday morning, and coming up pretty soon, you'll also be able to see us on a billboard, probably in the next couple weeks or whatever. This is huge for our show. I mean, it's going to be able to reach a whole lot more people and hopefully get the Ship's Gonna Happen name out, the transportainment name out. It is a beautiful Saturday morning. This show, along with all of our other shows, is brought to you by The Great Divide, 743 East New York Street, downtown Indianapolis. Great place to go to after a Ship's Gonna Happen week and kind of unwind, chat it up with the locals, hear some good music, get some good food. The Great Divide, 743 East New York Street, downtown Indianapolis. Timmy D, how are you this morning, my friend?
Timmy D.
What's going on? Hey, speaking of the Great Divide, good to be back. The Great Divide is doing some renovation down there.
They are.
Got some of the building on the exterior tore out, so it's going to be a nice little spot. So,
and coming up in Random Thoughts, we're going to talk about a special event coming up in August.
Oh, yeah.
Guacamole?
Is it? Oh, man.
But anyways,
Bam.
It's been a rough week, coming up on the last week of the month next week. So 4th of July is approaching. We got Trucker Todd on the line. Check out his YouTube videos. Very informative. Got a little sense of humor in him. So looking forward to his knowledge with us this morning. And good to be back in the studio with finally cooled off last night, which is kind of nice.
I
was like, what do you mean it's only 68 degrees out this morning, you know? Went outside with my shorts and no t-shirt. We'll let the dog out, and I was like, there's Nippalicious right there.
Is there video?
Yes, probably somewhere.
So.
Yeah, China's probably got video. Hey, Trucker Todd, you on? Good morning.
Good morning. How are y'all?
Doing good.
Good. Trucker Todd, good morning, sir. How are you? You doing all right?
Doing great.
Good. Thanks for coming on the show this morning. We're going to kind of get started first, and we're going to find a little bit of talk about your background a little bit. Where are you born? Where are you from? And then kind of how'd you get in the trucking industry? Can you give us a little story on that?
Oh, boy. Well, yeah, I had kind of a non-traditional entry into trucking. I'm from Lubbock, Texas. I actually grew up in a little town south of there. I've been driving about 25 years. And ironically, the way I got into trucking is I was in a bad car accident. I actually pulled out in front of a tanker and got hit sideways at 70 miles an hour.
Dang.
And
you're lucky to be here.
Oh, yeah. And the logic to that was, why don't I become a truck driver? I had two small kids at home, and I saw a newspaper article for a major mega carrier that said, you can make $30,000 a year, and this was back in '96. And so I thought, wow. I remember telling my wife, man, if we made $30,000 a year, we could go out to eat all the time.
Yeah.
We could buy a nice house. We thought that was big money.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what I was doing. I was a terrible truck driver. Probably the first 6 or 7 years I did it, and didn't take it real seriously. Made every mistake you can dream of, and that's kind of how the channel came to be, is that I kind of share my experiences and the mistakes I've made and the things I've learned, and people share theirs, and we try to help each other, especially in these tough times that we're all going through.
So you get plowed into by a 70,000-pound vehicle, and that knocked a little sense in your head, and now here you are 25 years later still driving a truck. That's a really good story. So are you still down in Lubbock, Texas? Do you still call Texas home?
I do. I love it in Lubbock, and that also presents its own challenges. There's not a ton of trucking companies that run through there a lot. Everybody runs pretty much east of I-35, it seems like.
Oh, wow.
And so it can be a challenge. I run the load boards, or did run the load boards until recently. And so I was able to plan myself pretty good because I knew the area. But it's a real struggle when you talk to trucking companies. A lot of them are say, well, are you near Dallas or Houston? And you say, oh, I'm about 500 miles west of there. They don't realize Texas is that big. So they're like, oh, you're in Austin. And you're like, no, you're still
Yeah. Wow.
long ways away.
Yeah.
I don't think people respect the size of how big Texas is. It's no lie. Everything is bigger in Texas because Texas is ginormous.
It is.
Well, when the speed limit was 55 back in the day, it was almost 2 full days drive to get across Texas in a truck.
Oh my!
I had no idea.
And now it's with the increased speed limits, it's a little better, but it's still a pretty big hop. It can be around 800 miles all the way across. I think it's a little over 800 actually.
I went through
Depending on
Texas
where you go.
up by Amarillo. It didn't take that long.
Amarillo by morning. That's my favorite part of Texas because you can just drive through it real
Right
quick.
through. There we go.
Then you're in my neck of the woods. It's about 150 miles across through the Panhandle, and I'm about 2 hours south of Amarillo.
Nice. Okay. How long have you been doing your YouTube channel?
That's another complicated question. So a couple of times in my life, I've said, I'm never going to drive a truck again. I'll sell everything off. And then I'll decide, no, I think I'm going to drive again. So I started selling cars for a little while. And I started the YouTube channel basically to advertise cars. And it was awful. Nobody watched it.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrible. And so then I went back into truck driving, and I had seen all these YouTube videos where drivers would talk about their experiences, and I thought, I'm going to try it. And in the beginning, I didn't tell anybody, not even my wife, because I thought, oh, they're going to make fun of me. And then it kind of took off, and I started getting a lot of viewers and things like that. And so now it's a full-fledged, but the short answer to your question is probably about 3.5 years.
Okay. Do you look at yourself as a mentor now with your YouTube channel? I mean, as informative as your videos are and stuff, do you look at yourself as being a mentor to like any truck driver, or in the younger truck drivers especially?
Absolutely, because I spend 4 to 6 hours a day on the phone coaching people and giving them advice. And
Wow.
And so there's a lot of that. I get probably 24 emails a day from people asking questions, and then the comments on the video are crazy, but they also teach me. And I say that because I get asked some pretty tough questions, and so I have to be on my game. I have to do a lot of research, and so I've told them, and I'm constantly thanking them in the videos because I'm better now because of them as well. It's a reciprocal kind of arrangement.
So you do a really good job with those. So, yeah, hopefully you keep doing them for a while. So do you see yourself eventually retiring as a truck driver, or is this something you want to keep doing? And you've already been doing it for 25 years. So
I've pretty much painted myself in a corner pretty much because of where I live.
mm-hmm.
I'll probably do it as long as I'm physically able to. It's you get into a rhythm to where you're used to doing what you want to do when you want to do it, and you get to see the country. I worked in the office, and I especially when I sold cars, and I liked that as well. But you kind of feel like a caged animal at some point where it's nice to get out. I've been to all 48 states, and most of my people that I went to high school with can't say that. They're hoping to go to the Grand Canyon or go see the Statue of Liberty. And I've been to all those places.
Yeah.
Paid for, right?
Yeah.
And got paid to do it.
That's
Awesome.
right.
So is it okay to talk about your new job and how that's going?
Sure.
And is it going really well so far?
Yes. So here's what happened. I was, as I said, I was on the load boards. I was running the spot market. And I've heard you guys talk about how spot market rates have crashed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to adjust my strategy a little bit. So I went to a large company that offered mileage pay, and they've got a load board I'm going to be beta testing for them, me and about 20 other guys. But the main thing was I needed to get my rates up. So now most of my stuff pays on dry van about say 210 a mile, between 2 and 210 a mile. Before, I was doing a 70-30 split. So if I did a load for $3 a mile, it was the equivalent of what I'm making now at 210 a mile. So I'm paying less taxes and I'm getting more income, because right now it's tough to find a $3 a mile load on the load boards. Whereas 6 months ago, it was real easy. I did $3 a mile loads all the time. And so it was a strategic move because of the economy. And I kind of feel like that even if both political parties got in a room today and said, we're going to put politics aside and we're going to fix everything today, it'd take at least a year for what they did today to be enacted. And we all know that's not going to happen, because the midterms are coming up and neither side wants to make the other side look good.
Right.
So
It's true.
So for the next at least couple of years, things are probably going to stay about like they are, or possibly get a little worse. And then what happens then? Well, then you're looking at a presidential election. And so for the next 3 or 4 years, I feel like we're kind of going to be in something similar to this. And that's why I made this transition right now. Now, if people ask me, are you going to pay your truck off, or are you going to leave it under a lease? Well, that's going to depend on the economy. Right now, truck prices are inflated. If truck prices were to drop, it might make sense to walk away from this lease and purchase a truck outright. But if things stay like this, it might make sense to buy this one.
Mm-hmm.
So how does it, when you talk about the load boards and you talk about the 70-30 split or taking it whatnot, where's the fuel coming at that? So if you're getting, let's just use a $3 a mile on the drive van there. Who's paying for that fuel? Because I mean, that fuel is almost doubled, right? Or is that before you guys add into your fuel surcharge to those loads?
Well, that's what's interesting. So let's say that $3 a mile load, and let's say 30%, that puts me just over $2 a mile. I've got to pay fuel, truck payment, insurance, maintenance, everything out of that. And that's another reason I made this transition, because I get a fuel surcharge that goes up every week, every time fuel goes up. This week it was 75.9 cents per mile. So I actually made money, and I did a video on it. I actually made more off the fuel surcharge than what I spent in fuel. Mm-hmm. Now, when I did it on that same load board like you're talking about, and I still have access to them, I have 87 load boards that I look at periodically to see what competitor rates are. But whenever I did that, say the rate was $3,000, they would just say, well, we're paying you $2,500 plus $500 for fuel surcharge. So you never really saw the fuel surcharge. It was in the quote that you quoted them. If it was,
that's what I'm seeing as well. As I'm seeing now more on what you're speaking to, where it's an all-in price, all-inclusive, not a fuel surcharge set aside, where people are quoting with everything all in what they're trying to do. Does that make sense? Is that something new in the market, you think, on that side?
No, I think it's just simplification. I think these brokers just want to know, what's my bottom line, what's it going to cost me to get this product from point A to point B. And I had a broker tell one of my guys, he was saying, I can't pull that load for $1.50 a mile. My fuel is going to eat it all up. And they said, well, that's not my problem. And I really think there's some truth to that, but I think that high fuel prices are all our problems. In the scenario I was telling you where I get the big fuel surcharge, I do great. If fuel hit $10 a gallon, I would make a killing. But the guy working for $13 an hour at the convenience store, it really hurts him. And so I'm real empathetic to guys that aren't in my situation. And there's a lot of truck drivers that aren't getting a fuel surcharge, or they're not getting an adequate one. They're getting 40 or 50 cents a mile fuel surcharge, and they're really struggling right now too. I've still got lots of friends that are over at my last company that are running the load board still, and they're really struggling right now. A lot of them have returned to being dispatched so they can get that mileage rate and make more money right now.
Right.
Well, that's people don't realize that you're right. The simplicity is there. At the end of the day, the person that's manufacturing or shipping that or whoever's paying that, they just want to know their cost so they can factor that into the sell price or the cost of buying the goods. They just want what is this going to cost me, period. In the kind don't break it all down. I want the end of the day price. And then you've got now bring it back to the truck drivers. The truck drivers are concerned if I'm paying for the fuel, I need to be compensated for the difference in the price it is today than it was a year ago or 2 years ago or whenever. And I think that sometimes it makes now the trucker's job harder, especially your independents, because now they got to base their fuel mileage and what they're going to do. And is it a 45,000 pound load? Is it a 20,000? They're still only going to get 6 miles to the gallon. So I think at the end of the day, what it's done is put a trick bag into the trucker's pocket now. So your bigger companies your bigger companies can figure it out a little bit. I think that the independent drivers out there on these load boards they're gonna really have to base, and then it's a price war. It's really a price war, especially when you got big companies buying a fuel at a lot less than Johnny and his truck, with just a card for Loves, right? Or Pilot or whatever. Or like David B. that just runs a tab at the Great Divide, So it's just one of those that it makes the market very, very competitive where you're literally scratching for pennies on every mile you get. So,
well, it's a lot like when you order something online. We all play the role of a broker or a shipper when we order something online. And it says, overnight shipping is $50. Ground is, $35 or whatever. We don't think about, somebody's got to bring it. I wonder what their fuel costs are. We're wanting to know how long is it going to take to get it and what's it going to cost to get it.
Yep.
And they're the same way. They're not intentionally trying to hurt the truck driver, but they're trying to run a business. Their costs have gone up. And they're trying to figure out how they can get their stuff the fastest and the cheapest.
So Trucker Todd, do you see the industry still as busy as it was like a year ago? Do you see loads are down? Are they up? Is it still the same?
It's definitely cooled off some. Last week, I sat a few days. But the thing that is happening that I'm seeing is some of these guys, especially if they work for, companies that obviously your private carriers like your Walmarts and stuff, they're doing about the same. But some of these smaller companies that maybe don't have as many accounts, those guys are really struggling. A lot of companies have gone to shorter trips to try to get their rate up. They're doing 300 and 400 mile runs. And the drivers hate that. They'd rather do a 2,000 mile run where it's not as much work, but it's just not there right now. Those are kind of getting
wrong.
Relayed. Yeah, they're the bigger companies just relay them across the country.
Yeah,
awesome. Okay, all right. So, on some of your videos, Trucker Todd, it looks like you're kind of doing them from like a camper. Do you have like a camper set somewhere that you go hang out in on your days off?
Yeah, that was a funny deal too. I was watching some YouTube videos, and we bought that camper, and the goal was, hey, we're going to live in it 2 years, because when you're driving a truck over the road, you're not really home a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, well, we'll live in it a couple of years and then we'll buy a house. And now we've got to where we enjoy it so much that we're not sure if we're going to get a house for a few years. The housing market in Lubbock has exploded. They're building houses everywhere. I know I listened to your last video, and you were talking about the housing market in Indianapolis.
Yep. And
I guess it's that way everywhere. They're building houses like crazy. They're way overpriced, and they're $300,000 and $400,000 for Lubbock, which is crazy for that area. And I saw a deal the other day. 40 of the over 40 cities in the United States have an average home value of over $1 million right now.
Whoa!
Jeez.
And so it just doesn't make sense to buy a house right now. I kind of view it like trucks. If the prices drop, it might make sense at some point. But right now we're having fun living in the camper, especially, on a good month there, I'm there 7 to 10 days a month. And a lot of times it's 3 or 4 days a month. So I've learned a lot, and it's been kind of a little adventure, and we can take it with us when we go places. don't have to worry about the cleanliness of a hotel or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been a lot of fun, but it's a temporary thing, but we don't know how temporary because we're both still really liking it.
Sure, that's good. But do you ever
awesome.
Do you ever get up around Indianapolis?
Oh yeah, my wife is actually from Indiana. She's from southern Indiana, around Lexington and Seymour, Sellersburg,
Yes,
that
yeah,
area.
yeah.
Oh, nice.
But
Know it very well.
yeah,
Always want to see more of Indiana.
we go to
I
Indianapolis.
see what you did there.
Yeah, nobody. Anyway, go ahead.
Sorry,
Trucker
Tony Bay's
Todd.
got some dry
Sorry.
humor in him. I got what he
Yeah.
said.
Yeah, go ahead, Trucker Todd. Ignore
I've never been to the Great Divide though. I need to go check that out.
Yeah, you're more than
Hey,
welcome.
you'll
You're
go
more
there
than
and-
welcome. Next time you're up, we'll get you. We'll take
It's
you there.
like a dive bar in downtown Indianapolis. So it's one of those if you're not local and you have no clue, you would have no clue it's there. But that's why we encourage everyone to visit. Because when I travel a lot for like the Colts games and things like that. And every big city we go to, I'm like, all right, I start Googling, where are my dive bars? Where are my local townies at? That I can sit down and see a man with a Budweiser and a can and just chat it up, as David B would say.
Yep.
I'm sure you got plenty of that down there in Lubbock.
Oh well, Lubbock's a college town, so they the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Red
Oh,
Raiders.
there we
Yeah.
go.
So
I
there's a
forgot
lot
about
around
that.
Texas
Yes,
Tech.
Nice.
Are you a big Texas Tech fan?
I would call myself a moderate Texas Tech fan. I'm going to get myself in trouble. I'm more of a Cowboys fan. I don't
Hang
care
on.
for the
Hang
owner,
on.
but I like the Cowboys.
We're done. We're done.
This
So do you
interview's
miss Bobby
over.
Knight? Do you miss Bobby Knight coaching down there?
I do, and Bobby Knight, I believe, still has a house in Lubbock.
Okay.
He doesn't remember. Did I say that?
May not.
And then the football coach, is it Jimbo Fisher? Or is it not Fisher? Who came from Florida State? Didn't you guys get the guy from Florida State?
That would have been Jimbo Fisher.
We
Yeah.
did just get a new head coach for the football team, and I honestly can't think of his name right now. I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, that's okay.
But so Texas
we-
Raiders, you guys are the ones that you got like the ROTC or whatever, right? In the stands.
I'm not sure about that
Okay.
either. Here's the deal on Texas Tech Red Raiders. A lot of us still miss Mike Leach. And
Mike Leach, there you go. Yep.
yeah, we would do anything to have Mike Leach back, but he and Texas Tech got in a disagreement, and it's one of those deals where Texas Tech probably owes him an apology, and he's never going to get that apology. So I don't think we'll ever see him again.
Mike Leach, I know you're listening to Ship's Gonna Happen show, and you heard from Trucker Todd right now.
That was his opinion, not ours.
Come on back. They're going to literally roll out the red carpet down there for you. Come on back.
He's an offensive genius.
Yes, he is. I agree with that.
Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire.
Yeah, he's new, though.
That is.
He's
He's
new.
new. I think
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
I don't even know that he's done his first. Has he done a season yet, or is he just
I'm
hired on?
I'm not sure. All I did was Todd was scan for the quickest thing, and I'm like, oh, coach. I could have easily read the coach from 20 years ago and not even pay attention to what I'm doing. So
Trucker
I'm
Todd.
more of a casual college fan. The problem with it, and I know they're trying to make it better, but they need to have like a playoffs and a Super Bowl like the NFL does. They have so many bowl games that you can be a 500 team and still be in a bowl game.
Yeah.
yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
And same thing with basketball and baseball. There's so many games for it to be. It seems inconsequential. Each game does.
Yeah.
Whereas the NFL, it's one a week.
Right. NFL's got a good deal. Had a question for you. When you had going back to your accident, right? And it may have been no big deal, but I'm envisioning in my head, you get this accident, right? You're in this car accident. How long did it take you to heal up? And did you decide right away to be a truck driver, or did you finally gradually, as you healed up, got into it? And I would imagine, I mean, there's a lot of physical stuff you got to pass to be a truck driver. So were there any issues with that?
Oh yeah, I hope I don't get myself in trouble answering this question.
Well, if you don't want to answer it, don't answer it. Seriously.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
So, it happened on Labor Day of '96, and I started truck driving school in November. So from September to November, I was out of commission, and that's when I read the newspaper and saw the articles. But I broke 4 ribs, 4 spinal processes, punctured a lung.
Oh my gosh.
I did all kinds of stuff, tore my shoulder up. And I went to, this is what's funny. I went to truck driving school in Altus, Oklahoma. The truck driving school's not there anymore. And I had ace bandages wrapped across my ribs. I would get short of breath. I don't know how I passed the physical.
Hey, do what you got to do.
And then when I got to truck driving school, they were teaching us how to unhook a fifth wheel. And as I was pulling the fifth wheel handle, the guy driving the truck foot slipped off the clutch.
Oh my gosh.
And the truck jerked and it separated my shoulder.
So why are we at truck driving school with someone in the cab when someone's messing with the fifth wheel? This seems completely against safety, in my opinion.
Oh, these guys, the instructor, sometimes they'll be in a bind, and the correct way to do it, of course, you don't know it when you're in school, is to back up a little bit and set your brakes and get out and do it, and that relieves the pressure off the locking jaws. But he tells this student, get up there and kind of rock the truck, and Trucker Todd, you pull the handle while he's doing that. So I'm under there pulling that, and my right arm's extended, and of course the drive tire hit my shoulder and it separated my shoulder.
Jeez,
Holy smokes.
They were worried about me suing them and everything.
Right.
I told the owner, no, I'm not going to do nothing. It was an accident.
So
But I'll take a steak dinner and a cold beer.
There we go.
A stick of bun
for a lifetime.
Yeah.
So Trucker
The whole
Todd,
thing,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, please.
the whole thing kind of fell into place. There was a truck driving school on there that was, and I don't know how I feel about truck driving schools either, but it was 12 hours a day, 6 days a week for 2 weeks.
Damn.
And they put you in a hotel and fed you 3 times a day. And, but they don't really teach you anything. They get you just enough knowledge to get you through and get your CDL. And then you go out with a trainer with whatever company you go to. And that's kind of hit or miss too, depending on how good of a trainer you get. And I had an excellent trainer, but I wasn't a very good student. I didn't take it seriously.
Trucker Todd, Trucker Todd, that's why I'm sitting here today. I'm not a very good student either.
I thought I'll do it a year or two, and then I'll get a job for Coke or Pepsi driving one of their little trucks, and I'll be home every day. I never thought I was going over the road. I kind of took it like a lot of people take high school. I thought, I don't really need to know this stuff. I just need to put my time on and then move on to something else. But I'd come back home and there'd be jobs for $8 an hour, and I would go, man, I can make in 2 days what I make in a week here working for $8 an hour. And that was back in the 90s. And so it kind of became something that you needed because you become used to it.
Yeah.
How did you figure out the truck boards? So you talk about the truck boards. It's always been fascinating to me because I've never really messed with one. So that's why I like to always pick truck drivers' mind and see what they know. So what got you into the truck board itself, and how did you figure it out? It sounds like you got it down to a science where you were saying you knew how to pick your runs to make sure your week was full, and then you got home type deal. So how does a truck board work? If you could explain to the ShipsGonnaHappen viewers, what does Trucker Todd see on there? Is there any tricks that you could give our listeners for those truck boards?
So I started at an LTL company, and they had where you picked. It wasn't a load board per se to start, but they had terminals, and you could pick which terminals you wanted to go to and stuff like that. And then if they didn't have something going where you wanted to go, they had a brokerage company that you could pick loads off of their load board. And so they kind of taught me how to do it and what to look for. And I learned about freight lanes kind of doing that. And then what I would say is kind of what I did. If I went to, because Lubbock is super hard to get to, if I went somewhere and I saw, hey, this place has loads to Lubbock, I would ask them, and there was a place over Atlanta like that. I'd say, how often do you guys have loads going to Lubbock? Oh, we go 3 times a week like clockwork. I'd write it down in my notebook. Hey, this place goes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And the next time I was in Atlanta, I would be like, well, I'm going to go over there and see if they've got one of those Lubbock loads. And if I had one that paid real well, or that I liked the shipper, or the place I was delivering to, I would make notes of it. And basically at that company, I developed a triangle. I would go from Dallas, Texas to Livermore, California, which passed me through Lubbock, from Livermore, California to Chicago, and then back to Dallas.
Wow.
And then if I didn't like the Livermore load, I would modify it. Instead of going to Livermore, I would go to Orlando, Florida. And I just made a big triangle. It put me through the house about once a week, and I'd make great money, and I was going to places that I enjoyed going to and delivering to.
So as an over-the-road trucker, you almost became a regular driver for these guys. Does that make sense? The same shipper, the same consignees type deal. They knew that Trucker Todd was going to be showing up on this day with that load.
Oh yeah, and that's recommended too. If you can build a relationship with these places that you're going to, you never know when that's going to benefit you. They'll start sharing information with you. Hey, we're about to open a new account. We're going to have loads going here if that's something you're interested in. It's if you're getting there late one day, we normally don't load at this hour, but because we know you, we're going to go ahead and load you. It never hurts to build those relationships, and you never know when you're going to meet them down the road again. If you lose your job right now, a lot of companies are being bought out. A lot of things are going on. You never know who you're going to meet again down the road that might be able to benefit you career-wise.
Exactly.
And that's also good for the shippers and receivers to see that familiar face, to know that you're also going to get things there on time and take care of the customers also. So that's a real good deal there, Trucker Todd.
Yeah, they develop a trust with you, and plus you kind of, I wouldn't call it a friendship, but it kind of feels like a friend. You go in there, hey, how are the kids doing? And they're asking, hey, how's your wife doing? And you kind of get that. So you feel welcome there, and instead of going to these places where it's like next.
Right.
Next.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We don't need that. Wow. So you are listening to the Ship's Gonna Happen show on this Saturday morning. We've got Trucker Todd on with us, having a really good interview, finding out about Trucker Todd and all his thoughts and how the industry is going and everything. So Trucker Todd, for this new company that you're going for, have you built any lanes with them yet, or are you still just trying to get the new feel of the company? Or
we're kind of in a weird holding pattern. They just started a load board, and they're going to have me beta testing it along with about 18 or 19 other drivers, and so it's going to be a train wreck in the beginning. They've already told me that. But they want me to do it because of my experience. And so right now I'm doing dispatch freight just like anybody else would do there. And I kind of wanted to do that too. In one of my videos, when I was feeling extra egotistical, let's say, I said I could make it at a lease purchase at almost any company, even a mega carrier. And everybody said, oh, I don't think so, Todd. So I came here and I did it. Now, there's part of it is you've got to learn the strategy of where you're at. So based on the pay package, you've got to figure out what's the way to optimize your money wherever you're at. And it's going to be, I've done this load board thing at 3 different companies, and all 3 of them I had a different strategy. And it usually takes 30 to 60 days to figure out what that strategy is. I had a guy this week at another company that he did 4 loads and quit. And you don't know anything about a company after 4 loads. You've got to give it time to develop. You got to build those relationships with the office people. Calling them and threatening them or telling them you're going to drive your truck through their office isn't how you build a relationship. They've got expectations and needs they need met, and you've got expectations and needs that you need met. And you've got to figure out a way to work together to where everybody gets where they need to be.
Right. Yeah. That's a good philosophy there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, definitely.
Hey, Trucker Todd, it's Tony B. And like David said, you're listening to the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast. Hey, what we're going to do now is we're going to break into some topics, man. We really enjoyed you, and you're welcome to be on the show. To continue on it, I should say. You want to stay on with us through the topics here?
Sure, let's go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. David B is going to bring us into the purge in the industry.
Oh, wait a minute. Why is it always me?
David, the Purge.
So, Trucker Todd, our topic for today is the Great Purge, where a lot of these big trucking companies are swallowing up the smaller ones, kind of at an unprecedented rate. And, you know, these small carriers, at least in our eyes, are a big part of, you know, helping keeping rates. I mean, I know they've been high, but, you know, I'm being on my end of it, I need rates to come down a little bit further. But you're starting to see all these big trucking companies kind of taking over all these little trucking companies. And so Tony and I today decided that this is kind of the topic that we thought we'd like to discuss. And it's just the Great Purge, where in the month of May, there was 9,300 revocations.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
And that's like way up, right?
1 month, 9,300.
Yeah.
Yep. 1 month, 9,300 revocations of the small trucks.
That means taking away their rights to operate.
Yes. Yeah.
So explain it a little deeper. What?
So
9,300 were bought out. 9,300 were
Lost.
Closed the doors. Someone bought the assets.
Their rights to transport were revoked. Yeah.
For what? DOT scores? A mixed bag of everything?
Mixed bag of everything.
Okay.
But predominantly, they just can't. Some of them couldn't operate, right, due to cost and
the cost of fuel, and
so they couldn't afford things.
It's again back to the humans paying for it, right?
Exactly.
Versus the company. So, Trucker Todd, have you seen a decline in the mixed bag of trucks on the road? I guess would be my question with
Your
Real
smaller
Eyes on
companies. Yeah.
It's funny because there's been some real high profile buyouts here lately. USA Truck just was in the news recently. Heartland Express has bought a couple of companies lately. We all remember that Hirschbach bought JCT here recently. And so there's a lot of it going on. What I find weird, though, is for the last couple of years, we've heard about trucker shortages. And you go to a truck stop, it sure doesn't feel like a trucker shortage. If we're really 80,000 truckers short right now, I don't know where any of us are going to park when they find those 80,000 drivers.
Well, Trucker Todd, that's something that we've talked about on this show and gone back and forth with. I mean, I've been doing this 22 years. Dave's been doing it a while. Timmy D's been doing it a while. If we added it all up on the trucker shortages year after year, that we'd be about like 1 billion short. You know what I mean? So, but yeah.
Yeah, there's
go
ahead, Trucker Todd.
The deal is I don't know that there's a shortage of drivers. A lot of guys got out when all the regulations came. The guy that trained me got out when the regulations came. But what there is there's a shortage of guys willing to work in the current conditions, whether it be regulations or all the unpaid time. For example, if you go to a shipper and you get paid detention because you're waiting there too long, typically it starts after either 2 or 4 hours, and then it's like $20 an hour. So if I sit there 4 hours, on the 5th hour, I get $20, which works out to $4 an hour.
Right.
I'm making less than the 15-year-old that's giving me my French fries at Wendy's.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So
That's DB Shanker bought USA Truck, right?
It's a brilliant point. Like, think about that. So, yeah, the lead time is there, and typically the company itself is getting paid too. So the company's taking some of that. So you may see $20 from your company, but that company's probably charging whomever $100 to $200. It's typically a detention charge. Starts about $100.
And I left an important point out of there. In that 70-30 split I was talking about, the company gets 30% of that $20. So now I'm making $3 an hour.
Right.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
And I have guys that tell me, well, Trucker Todd, it should pay from minute one. And I don't think that's realistic either. You have to give them a reasonable amount of time to load the trailer. But I think an hour, hour and a half is reasonable. Once you start getting in 2 to 4 hours, I mean, some of these companies wait till the last minute and then they load you in the last 15 minutes so they don't have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all been sitting there.
Well, and the way the regulations are now, that your clock is still ticking while you're sitting there.
Yeah, and I
Right.
don't think that's fair either. I
It's
think
not.
when you're hooked to a dock, you should not be charged for
Should be
that
turned
time.
off. It's ridiculous. I mean, why would you minimize the hours and penalize the hours when you need more hours? I mean, it's
Well,
ridiculous.
and they've improved it a little. It used to penalize you if you pulled over and took a nap. So if you were driving, you're like, I'm tired, I need an hour and a half, 2 hour nap. It used to penalize you for that. Now you can stop for 2 hours and take a nap, and it does kind of freeze your clock.
Okay.
But I remember guys that they would say, I need a nap, I'm tired, but I can't stop because my clock will keep going and I won't have the hours to deliver this load. So they were encouraging people, I mean, not meaning to, but it was encouraging people to drive tired. And that's what these rules are supposed to do, is prevent fatigue. I think the 30-minute break creates fatigue because,
Yep.
I mean, if I told you to sit at your desk and do nothing for 30 minutes, you'd be
And
more
fall
tired
asleep.
than you are right now.
Yeah.
Right.
And they've improved it a little. You can fuel during the 30-minute break and do things like that. But then you're working during your break. Is that really a break?
Right.
Well, and back to the delay time. I think that's a very interesting thing. The driver literally, I mean, it sums it up. One of the best lessons ever in life. Time is money, right? So if I'm rolling with that truck, and let's say that load pays $1,000 to move, and it takes me my one day to drive it for that $1,000, 500 miles, whatever it might be, and you're sitting around for 2 hours unloading or loading, and then 2 hours unloading. So now you got 4 hours of your 12 total hours. I think you can have 10-hour driving. You're only getting paid pennies on the dollar at that point for that hour, those couple hours that you're loading and unloading, versus your drive time is where you're making all your money, right? So, and to your point, Trucker Todd, what you said earlier, relationships, know who you're going in, know that you can get straight to the door, make sure they load you first, right? Knowing those shippers and those consignees and the people in there, even up to the dock worker that's going to load you, unload. Oh, there's Trucker Todd. Let me get him unloaded first. You know, that's my buddy, right? So, in the grocery warehouse is a great point. And I think their drivers are not compensated for their time at docks. That's for daggone sure. We know that's true. And it doesn't matter. I don't think companies are compensated, but again, that's the price to do business sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff, and I'm not sure what the solution is. They're not paid for fueling, pre-trips, post-trips, dropping and hooking. There's a lot of things they're not paid for, and they say, well, that's part of the mileage pay, and it's really not. Depending on how you're paid on mileage pay, whether it's HHG or what form you're getting paid, there's a 10 to 15% variance in mileage.
Yeah.
And even if you don't want hub miles either, though, I hear a lot of guys say, well,
Right.
the answer is get hub miles. Well, then the second you get off the interstate and go to the truck stop, there's a debate about, well, why'd you go to that truck stop? That added 5 miles. I mean, or if there's a detour, why'd you go that way? That added 5 miles. You're just trying to pad your paycheck. So there needs to be somewhere in the middle. I think these days with Google and everything, we can get a lot more accurate mileage deals. And that would, you don't have to increase. I hear drivers all the time, I want a raise. You don't have to have a raise if they paid you, Google miles. It goes address to address. That'd be a 10 to 15% pay raise right there.
Here's and speaking of the topic here, the Great Purge from Freight Waves. Who was the lady that wrote that?
Who was the lady that wrote that? Ms. Rachel Premack.
Thank you, David. Yeah,
Yes.
here's some headlines. I'll read them real quick. The Great Purge from Freight Waves. Department of Justice. That's not it. KSDK. West Coast small trucking operators fight to stay alive. Owners of small trucking company share a dire warning about the consequences of the prices. So, I mean, it seems to be an absolute serious thing that's going on. So
they don't have the leverage. When you're a small guy out there, you don't have the leverage to get the fuel.
Yeah,
you can get some fuel perks or whatever. I mean, Trucker Todd's got a video out there about a fuel card or whatever, which is huge for those guys. But you don't have the leverage of your top 5 companies out there that can buy fuel at an unprecedented rate to get it down. In your Loves or whatever, they can give some of those companies that, it's a fleet of 20, right? Or a fleet of 50. Well, that fuel is a drop in a bucket for your big boys. A drop in the, that doesn't even fill up, you know what I mean?
I agree.
So they're not going to give them buying power because they're not buying as much diesel as someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So Trucker Todd, I want to ask you, I'm going to go off topic just a little bit. I want to ask you about your videos. Is that okay?
Sure.
So I'm looking at your videos and then the song that you use, kind of your intro song. How did you get permission to use that song?
I actually contacted the band through Facebook Messenger, and I said, "Hey, I really like that song. I would like to use it in my YouTube videos. What would you charge me to use the song in my videos?" And he asked me along the lines of why I liked the song and what my videos were about, and I told him, and he's like, "Do it." And I said, "Well, you don't want to be paid anything?" And he said, "No, just put in the description section our band and things like that." So I went on an app called Bandcamp,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got the link in the
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, and I went on the link in their web page, and I paid. It asked for a donation. I made a $5 donation, and I've still got the messenger messages where he gave me permission in case YouTube ever gets onto me or anything. But evidently, they're a real small band out of, well, I wouldn't say real small, but they're a medium-sized band out of Springfield, Missouri. And he actually works for the sales department of a large trucking company in Springfield, Missouri.
Okay.
And he actually made a video for them for their company. And so that's how I did it. I went through him and got permission. That's why I'm not worried about trademark infringement or anything like that. And to this day, if he approached me and wanted to be paid, I'd pay him. I used to pay $15 a month for a service called Epidemic,
mm-hmm.
where I could download their music and play it in my videos. And if he wanted $15 or $20 a month to play
Epidemic
a song,
sound.
I'd gladly pay him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does YouTube give you any feedback for using the song?
Oh, people love it. It's funny, in a lot of my videos, I say, "Hey, all the information you're wanting's in the description
mm-hmm.
below." And nobody ever looks. They always ask me, "What band is that? That's a good song. Where is it?" And so nobody reads the descriptions,
right.
but it's there.
Has YouTube checked your copyright authorization?
Well, from what I understand, YouTube changed their policy. They will, one of the deals they did when they monetized me is said that if you play music in your video, that they'll tag it in the description.
Yeah.
That whose music it is and who owns it and things like that. And if basically you don't get in trouble unless the band has a problem with it. Okay. So I like a lot of country music, a lot of 80s hair bands. If I was to put my favorite 80s hair band on there and that hair band said, "Hey, we don't like it," then YouTube would make me pull the music or pull the video and redo it. But these guys, they've got a lot of great songs and I really like their music, but for trucking, it seemed to fit and it's catchy. It sticks in your head.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I appreciate you. We've been kind of fighting with what songs to use and stuff. Not fighting amongst ourselves, but just kind
we're
of
throwing down after this.
Well,
it's
like Trucker Todd. You've obviously dug into this thing. Like it's hard to find an actual free music place, right? Like they all say free. But there's a subscription because we use Epidemic Sound too. And it's probably one of the best ones out there, unless you can have your own band or something, make your song like you did.
I get it. The music artists want their money. I
Yeah.
get that. It's just how do we go about, never mind.
Yeah.
So
all good. Yeah. So
kind of getting into random thoughts there.
we are just a little bit. You're listening to the Ship's Gonna Happen show. Go ahead.
I really wrestled with how much to donate because I wanted to give, a couple $100 or something. And I thought, well, I don't know how long I'll use the song. We'll see how it takes off. But I'm friends with them on Facebook. Anytime they announce a concert or something, I try to put a positive comment. And if you're ever in Springfield, they really do have a lot of good songs. I can't believe that one. That's what I was discussing with the lead singer. I can't believe that song wasn't on the radio and a top 10 hit. It's a really good song.
So
nice.
So Trucker Todd, we greatly appreciate you being on with us this Saturday morning, and we have our own little Ship's Gonna Happen Hall of Fame, HAUL of Fame, and today we would like to induct Trucker Todd into our Ship's Gonna Happen Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, he's got to accept first. Does he accept?
Do you accept there, Todd?
Absolutely. This is a crowning achievement in my career.
I wouldn't consider.
Trucker Todd's got
more,
jokes
Trucker
today.
Todd. You need to get out more.
Yeah.
If you on your next video, if you don't mind, if you could take a moment or two and give us a shout out, if you're not comfortable with doing that, that's fine too. But if you could give us a shout out, it would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
No, it's all going to come down to my editing skills. I'm going to try to put you guys in this interview in the Monday video if I can pull it off.
It's awesome.
We're gonna get. We appreciate that, man. We're gonna get into our last segment.
First, before we get into the last segment, Trucker Todd, can you give us the?
Go ahead.
This is Trucker Todd, and you're listening to the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast.
This is Trucker Todd, and you're listening to the Ship's Gonna Happen podcast.
Oh,
there we
nice.
go.
Boom. They hit it right on the first time.
Well done.
Man, first take.
done.
Hey, when you're living in Lubbock, Texas, you're good at what you do.
That's right.
That's
right.
Trucker Todd's pretty good at it.
You got some good barbecue down there, Trucker Todd?
Oh man, Texas barbecue is the way to go, and Mexican food in Texas is awesome too.
Oh, I bet it is.
You're talking my language with barbecue and Mexican food.
So
I could live on that. Well, I had to throw a little pizza in there in my life.
There we
You like pizza. Tim eats pizza a
So
lot.
so Trucker Todd, Mexican food as in better than Taco Bell, right?
Oh yeah. It's funny because it seems like every week they open a new Mexican food restaurant in Lubbock.
Oh, I bet.
My wife's like, that's all everybody does around here is eat Mexican food.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yep, definitely. Awesome. So
It's
What's wrong with that?
Like that show Naked and Afraid, they always say, what's the one thing you want to have on the island with you for the next 28 days? I want a Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
there we go. There we go.
I want those steak tacos with a little cilantro and onion. Come on with it.
I can sleep in the restaurant. I'll have plenty of food.
That's awesome. So we're going to get into random thoughts here real quick. All
right, here we go.
We're a couple.
Yep. So we'll have a couple. Here we go. Random thoughts. Ship's Gonna Happen podcast. Happy Saturday morning, David B.
Episode 69.
69.
So we got two of them this morning. The first one is I got this off the Dan Patrick show. I was listening to them earlier in the week, and I thought this will be a good one. And to me, there's not really more than one way, but I guess there might be more than one way. If you're going to eat a bowl of cereal, what goes in the bowl first? The cereal or the milk?
Man, there's no.
Yeah, I know.
There's no questioning that. It's the cereal.
It's the cereal.
Yeah.
You have to match the milk to the amount of cereal that goes in the bowl.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. But there was a ton of people that were like, "No, you put the milk in first and then the cereal." I'm like, "Who the hell does that?"
I think the point of that is to keep the cereal from being soggy. So you put it in last so it doesn't sit there by the time you put all your crap up. But I'm not a big cereal guy. I've probably had a dozen bowls in my entire life. But definitely the cereal, then the milk.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I ate it a lot. And I haven't. Trucker Todd, what about you?
Oh, you definitely put the cereal
Yeah,
first.
there you go.
Especially if it's like Captain Crunch or something. The cereal would
Captain
float
Crunch.
on top of the milk, and
There we go.
Well
you'd have a
said.
mess.
So let's just right there. Trucker Todd, what's your favorite cereal? If you had one more, if you only had one that you could have for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, probably Lucky Charms. I like Lucky Charms.
That's a great call.
Lucky Charms.
Timmy D, what about you? I know you're not
I
a
asked the
big fan.
question. I get to go last. So
Okay, damn it.
go ahead there, Tony B.
Tony B.
We're going reverse order here.
Probably mini wheats.
Okay. That give you a little bit of roughage to
A
go
little
with
bit
that.
of coated
Kinda-
sugar on there. Yeah.
Nature's rake gonna take care of it in the end too.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have to say, and Trucker Todd mentioned it too a little bit. Peanut butter Captain Crunch, but it tears the shit out of your mouth. Oh, just the roof of your mouth. Just tears up the roof of your mouth.
Never had it.
But anyway, Timmy D.
I
Peanut
go
butter
with-
Captain Crunch?
Never really got into
Okay.
it. I was Flintstones,
Fruity Pebbles.
Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah.
mini wheats,
Oh, do
and
you guys remember grape nuts? That's
Oh,
like
yeah.
eating gravel.
oh,
Yeah.
Grape
yeah,
nuts?
it's
And
the
Trucker
grape
Todd,
nuts.
if you didn't wash out that grape nut bowl right then, that became like cemented to the inside of the bowl. Am I right?
Absolutely.
You chisel to get it out.
Ugh.
Nice, yeah.
So Timmy D, you're up.
Oh,
Mini wheats.
I probably only do two
Wheats?
cereals in my life, which is Cocoa Pebbles because the milk turns into chocolate milk when you're done, so you can drink it.
Yeah, that
And
was
then
good
I would,
stuff.
I would say Frosted Flakes.
Frosted Flakes, Tony the Tiger.
They're
call.
great.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a soundbite
Right?
right there.
Yeah,
That's a
great.
soundbite right
They're
there.
great.
Yeah.
Hey, the commercials just started coming back on too. Have you seen this new soccer commercial?
No.
Oh yeah.
Is he woke?
We don't have.
I don't know that.
So anyway.
What's your other random thought? You got anything else?
All right. So
move
on August the 12th, we are going to have, and it's cemented, and the date has been set, and okay with the Great Divide. We are doing our third annual walk-off on Friday, August the 12th at the Great Divide in Indianapolis. Our reigning two-time champion Timmy D is sitting in studio with us this morning, and so
Oh, he won
I
it?
think that- yes.
Oh,
So we can. So Trucker Todd, if you're in the area on August the 12th, you're more than welcome to stop by and hang out. We do this walk off where we raise money for a local charity.
bring your own guac.
And, yeah. So I
Yeah, you got good guacamole down there in Lubbock?
I imagine they do.
I bet they do.
bet they do.
Trucker Todd, you still with us?
Yeah, I didn't hear the question.
Do you have any good guacamole down there in Texas?
Oh yeah, it spoils real quick. You've got to eat it the same day.
Oh yeah.
Or there's a restaurant there called Albaron's that has excellent top shelf
You
guacamole.
should have never told Tim that. He'll be on a first flight out trying to get that recipe.
I gotta get the taste bud in.
Yeah. So we're
That
doing.
walk off sounds pretty interesting. What exactly?
So
Obviously, there's a lot of walking.
well, so guac.
No, there's no walking at all.
It's a
I'm too fat to walk.
Yes, that's where it's a guac off. So there's about half a dozen of us or 10 of us or so that'll make our recipe guacamole, and we take it to the Great Divide, and then we do.
And Tim wins, and then we go home.
We raise, yeah, kind of, and then we raise money for a charity. People come in and
It's like a chili, like a chili off, or like a
cook-off.
or
Yeah,
like a
we do.
barbecue cook off. It's
Yeah.
who makes the best guacamole and give it to the patrons that come in. They sample them all, then they vote which one was their favorite.
and Tim has
Oh,
won.
that sounds like fun.
We've done it twice, and Tim's won both times. And so August the 12th, we're doing our third annual guac off, and it's a really good time. And again, we raise money for a local charity, and that's
good
what
stuff.
it's about. So yeah, it'll be a good
Excellent.
time. So if you're ever up in the Indy area, please hit us up, and we would be more than welcome to come and shake your hand and buy you a coffee or meet you up somewhere. And we'd love to have
Oh,
you.
yeah.
We'd love to. Go ahead.
I may try to come to that guac off. That'd be fun.
No, you're more than
Do it,
welcome.
man,
You're
yeah.
more than welcome.
We'll remind
And if- And Trucker Todd, would you be willing to come back on the show sometime before the end of the year, probably?
Oh yeah, that'd be great. It's fun.
Awesome. Good.
The guac
Good.
off.
We appreciate your time today, sir.
Yeah.
Appreciate your insight too, and real eyes out there, and a little bit more information for my little dumb bud on the truck boards and all that. It's good to hear real people in the seat and how things get done, and we appreciate you truly.
You're awesome, Trucker Todd.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for having me home and for my induction into the Hall of Fame.
There we
Absolutely.
go.
And
Awesome.
tell us one more time when the ship's going to happen. How can anyone listening to our show find Trucker Todd?
Basically, get on YouTube. If you type in Trucker Todd, I'm usually one of the first ones that pop up. Trucker Todd on YouTube is the channel, but it's pretty easy to find me on there. We usually do videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Try to release them at 9 a.m. Central Time. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't, but we try.
When do you do your 60-second rants?
You know, I was doing those up until a few weeks ago, and there's just been so much going on that I haven't done one in a while. I may get back to doing those. They were on Wednesdays, but I get so far behind on things I need to cover. A lot of the videos are driven by questions I get, and I'm getting so many questions right now that I really need all 3 days to to answer questions.
Gotcha.
But we may sprinkle some in here and there because a lot of people really like those too.
Yeah, those are
And,
interesting.
A 60-second rant on how many Mexican restaurants are in Lubbock, Texas.
There you go.
Several people are wanting me to do a TikTok too, and it's the kind of video I do. It's kind of hard to trim it down to where it'll fit the TikTok.
Or I got a better one, Trucker Todd.
What's that?
A 60-second rant how you're going to kick Timmy D's butt in this guacamole
There we
kickoff
go.
contest.
There we go.
That might
Man.
Stepping
If
up.
it's an eating competition, I might take him. But if it's a preparing, I don't know if I can do it.
be. Well, thank you for being on the show. We appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and buzz out this happy Saturday morning. Trucker Todd, you can catch him on YouTube. And David B., happy Saturday morning.
Happy Saturday
to you,
morning to
Timmy
everybody.
D.
And Trucker Todd, thank you again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Trucker Todd. Thanks. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Ship's Gonna Happen show. Appreciate you guys. And
We're
it's
out.
a good deal.
Yes.
Boom.